Welcome to Dan's Crypto Adventures. Today we're going to look at Miner 1. This is a miner that has been in a few other videos I've done. One video I built the frame, one I did the main board, power supply with everything with one GPU, and then I put together added in the additional 5 GPUs to make it a 6-card mining rig. There were a few mistakes made in that put together, so I wanted to kind of review those and show you guys what occurred and what I've done to rectify those. One of those is relatively minor, but one is pretty significant. It actually prevented the miner from running. At the time, it would only recognize one graphics card. So the first item we're going to look at is the simple one, the simple fix to it. And let me grab the camera to show you that. And so here is the rig. So there's 6 graphics cards in it. My original intent is to have this piece of metal on here like so. Now it works fine, as you can see on this side, but over on the other side is where I had the problem. And that is these graphics cards are too tight, don't allow it to go all the way together. And so I actually knew this when I was building it, putting it together, so I had to make adjustment on the fly, which you may or may not have noticed in the video. This is how I intended to install this piece. I wanted that piece installed though for rigidity, just to keep the frame rigid so I can carry it around. All I've got to do is spin it around and install it like so. And that allows me the room for those last 2 graphics cards. Those last 2 right there are the GTX 1070 Ti's by Zotac. And so those are a little bit longer. Those 2 right there in the middle are the GTX 1070 Ti Minis by Zotac, and then the EVGA 1070s. Those are not TIs. So it's just the Zotac 1070 Ti's that were the issue. So I had to make that a little bit bigger. So let me reattach this piece, and then we will take a look at the other issue that I had, the more serious issue that I had. Alright, so now let's take a look at the second issue that I had, and that was when I turned the rig on, when it had all 6 graphics cards, I only had 1 card show up. The other 5 would not show up in Windows no matter what I did. And so when I started looking around the system, I realized that it was an issue with the power supplies. I have 2 power supplies in the system. One is an EVGA 750 Platinum, which is the one here in the front. The one in the back is a 750 EVGA Gold. The one in the back, the gold, was not turning on, the fan wasn't spinning, nothing was happening. The Platinum was working just fine, the one in the rear was not. And so I've had this one, the gold, in the back here for a little while, so I knew that it worked. I found it hard to believe that it just all of a sudden quit like that, because it's not very old. And so I started looking around from there. And what I realized was that I was overloading that power supply. I had too many things plugged into that one, and not nearly enough plugged into the front one. And so I was overloading the capability of that power supply. And so I had to realize I had to separate out what was plugged into what device. So the Platinum here on the front, this is the most efficient. This is where I want the CPU and the main board and the hard drive and those items plugged into, because it is the more efficient one. I would prefer to have more on this one than the gold, but I do need to maintain that evenness and make sure I don't exceed that. You want to generally, rule of thumb is you want to be in the 40% to 60% range on the availability of a power supply. So if this is 750 watt, you want to be about the 40% range of that to 60% range of that. It tends to lose efficiency when you get outside of those ranges. And so what I had to do is picked up one of these devices. This one's by Belkin. I'll stick a link down in my in the bottom here for Amazon to purchase this, but you basically just plug it into an outlet, you plug your power supply into here, and then it tells you how many watts. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook in each power supply separately and see how many watts each power supply is using and so that'll be a real look at how much power this power supply is actually using, and I can make sure that it's in that efficiency range. And then once I get this one set up, I'll double check the back one and make sure I've evened it out properly. So at this point, everything is working fine. Right now the system is running great. I have this front one plugged into the CPU. This is the primary going to the main board, the hard drive, and then 3 of the graphics cards and 3 of the risers. The one in the back is powering 3 graphics cards and 3 risers. So they're pretty comparable. The front was doing a little bit more because it's doing the CPU, the main board, and the hard drive. But in a system like this, a mining rig, those don't use a whole lot of power. It's primarily the graphics cards that's the overwhelming majority of it. So I'm going to turn the system down, plug this in here to this this one power supply, and let's see where it lists. All right, so I've gotten that plugged in. So let me grab the camera, and I'm going to show you that real quick. So this here is the little device. If you follow this cable around, it simply goes in here. So this is all temporary. I'm not leaving this plugged in like this. So here's the main power coming in to the splitter. Here is that device with the cord going to that front power supply. One of these cords goes to the other power supply, and one goes to the monitor. Again, this is all just temporary. Please don't hook up a permanent monitor like this. And so here are those two cords. So again, this one cord here goes to the front power supply, and here is that device that measures the wattage. Now, you need to make sure you measure the wattage under load. So this needs to be up and running and mining. So I just restarted it. So right now the miners are just getting up and going. I do have a CPU miner going, just kind of messing around with it. But here's what it is mining right now. And so it is under load. So right now I'm pulling 430 watts at the wall out of the available 750. So again, I'm right in that range. You want to be in the 40% to 60% range ideally. So now I'm going to turn the system back off and plug this device into the other power supply. I want to make sure that it's in that same range so that I'm reaching max efficiency. So let's do that. Let's shut it down and do that. Okay, so now we've got our device here hooked into the other power supply. So let's take a look at that. So here's the Belkin watt meter. I'm going to follow the cord around. Now it is plugged into this side. This is our temporary hookup here. So we follow that power supply. It goes into this back. This is the gold EVGA 750. And so it is pulling about 476 watts. So that is a little bit higher. I'm not really sure why, but it is. But we're still in that percentage. We're still in that close to 60% range for this. So that's great. It is under load. The miner is up and running. So we're good there. So now I'm going to disconnect this. I don't need to have this plugged in all the time. I'm kind of curious as what the whole rig is running, so I might kind of put it in line so I can measure the wattage of the entire rig, just so I have that information in case I need it for any calculations or to figure out electricity costs or that kind of thing. So I'm going to do that real quick. Alright, and so we've got that hooked back up, and look at that, I changed shirts in the blink of an eye. Isn't that interesting? Today's actually the next day, but I was running overnight, but I got the watt meter hooked up to the entire rig. So the monitor's not plugged in now, so it's just the rig. The rig is on, it is on full load, and right now it is 920 watts, 919 watts. So right in that range. It's a great range to be in, pretty happy with that. So anyway, thank you for watching the video. Please hit subscribe and also like down at the bottom. Down below are Amazon links to all of the products you've seen in this video, so take a look at those. Feel free to send me an email, ask any questions that you have for this video or any others. So thank you for watching. Appreciate it.